Well, welcome back. My lovely wife Kate is joining us today. You get a lot of opportunities to hear from me and see me, but you don't get a whole lot of opportunities to hear from Kate. And so I thought we'd interview her this week. So Kate, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So Kate, tell us a little bit about yourselves for those that don't know you. Where are you from and kind of what you do?
I am from Texas, originally Tyler, Texas. Went to school in Charleston, South Carolina, where I met Stephen. And I am the director of operations for a online stationery paper company called Dogwood Hill.
Awesome. So Kate, one of the things that I've always admired about you, or one of the things that probably originally attracted me to you, is that your strong spiritual foundation. So tell us a little about your influences growing up and kind of how they impacted you.
Yes, I became a Christian about the age of 8. I was very fortunate to have parents who modeled well in front of me. And so a lot of times when I'm talking about what set that foundation for me, it wasn't just that church was, a sometimes thing. It was my dad, which Stephen can attest. You ask my dad almost anything and he'll talk about taking it to the Lord or trusting the Lord or the Lord's plan. And then my mom was somebody who, if we got up before we were supposed to and went downstairs, she was always every morning at the same time sitting in her chair reading her Bible and praying over us. And so just seeing that, I would say almost more modeled than actually just said. Like we weren't, I don't remember ever being told we had to go to church because of XYZ. It was just naturally these things were put into the rhythm of our life. And then because of a lot of that, they really made sure that I was surrounded by not just them, but a lot of other people that I could look up to and be mentored by. And then in middle school, I had an amazing group of friends who decided to come together. We didn't have what BYG does at Briarwood in the sense of accountability groups. And so they actually came together and were like, we want accountability. We want to meet together and hold each other accountable and study the word together and go deeper. And so I had a group of about 5 of us in our grade and 3 girls that were older that were with us for a couple of years that we met every week and did that. And I think just having consistent people kind of outside my parents too was really good, because I had people that would speak into my life and speak truth in my life and see things and that I could go to, even through the teenage years when you don't listen to your parents or think that they know best. So.
Well, let's talk to us a little about your dad, because your dad had a unique job growing up. He was in the Marshal service and was gone a lot. So tell us a little about that. How was it having a dad that was gone, but yet, as you've said to me, he was still very present?
Yeah. So yeah, he was a US Marshal, but then most of my life he did special ops for the US Marshals. And now he would tell you he was a deputy US Marshal, and now he is the US Marshal. So he is the top dog in his federal district, which is what he's been working for his entire career. So we were very proud of him when he made it. But doing special ops for the Marshal service, he traveled the world. So most of my growing up, he would be gone for long periods of time, anywhere from like a week to his longest trip was to Iraq to help train their government for 6 months. But I think his personality as a person was somebody who was always warm, welcoming, respectful of everybody, a great listener. I mean, I have friends in college from Charleston that love my dad just because he instantly pulls you in. And but yeah, he was a major influence in the sense that while he has talked to Stephen a lot about regretting how much he traveled, I think me and my brother and my sister didn't see the travel quite as much as my brother and I did, because she's 10 years younger than me. I don't feel like there was an absence. Like I never feel like my dad wasn't there because he called, I have letters from every trip. He was constantly active in my life. I mean, one of the things I can think of is all of my ballet recitals, he always gave me a little ballet figurine or treasure box or a gift. And even if he was out of town, he would have bought it ahead of time, and he would tell my mom where to hide it in my room so that I would find it on recital days. Or he never missed anything like that. And then I joke with Steve, was like, he was also very present in the discipline of us. There's a very vivid memory of him being in Iraq, and my brother and I would not clean up our rooms. We were not obeying my mom, and she was getting more and more frustrated. When he was in Iraq, I was 15, and my brother was 17, 18, senior in high school. And so my mom sent a picture by email to my dad of our rooms, and immediately got a response that said, we got emails that said, your mom sent me a picture of your room. She's going to send me another one in 30 minutes. It better be spotless. And Nick and I hopped to it and cleaned up our room. And so, I think I've heard from Steven just how much he wishes he was there for more. Like, we joke that he doesn't know how old I am because he missed so many of my birthdays. But I think he did a very wonderful job of balancing. While he might not have been physically there, he was always present. He was never just, did we feel like he was gone and he was out of the picture. I know Mom took a ton of responsibility on her shoulders, just in the sense of being there, caring for us and driving us everywhere. But I think he did a wonderful job of making sure that even if he was going to be gone, that he stayed very active as a father figure, which could have been easy to check out.
Yeah. So for those that don't know this about you, because you don't come off this way, but you are, and those that do know her, that you're going to know where I'm going here, but that you're a massive introvert. I mean, people probably don't know to the level of an introvert that you are, but I see it because after church, after big events, you're kind of just white. But I like to say that you're like a very socially skilled introvert, meaning that when people meet you, well-adjusted, people know, like when they meet you, you're warm, you're welcoming, you don't come off that way. But tell us a little bit about that. What's it like being an introvert, and pretty far on the extreme of introversion, being married to an extroverted husband and being in ministry, which just means being around a lot of people? Like, tell us a little bit about kind of challenges or things that you thought through in that.
Yeah, I've definitely grown in it in the last 9 years. I've always been a fairly big introvert, small group of friends, close friends. I have, from growing up, I have the same 3 friends that I've had since I was 2, and it's kind of the same with college or whatever. So I've always been a small, deep relationship person. And that's, in Sunday school, you find me, when we have Sunday school, sitting in the back of the room in my chair that I walk in. And I remember before it was like the room we're in now, I'd go and sit in the same chair and would probably only talk to the people around me. So if you weren't around me, I never met you. Because it still is very against my nature to just walk up and meet someone new. It is always very anxiety ridden when I see Steven walking over with somebody and out of his mouth comes, I want to introduce you to my wife. And I immediately kind of have a panic attack inside. There's like a physical reaction. Physically feel ill. But I have grown in it. I think part of it is just one, wonderful encouragement from my husband to do it at my own pace, not really throwing me in the deep end immediately and making me be somebody who is the social butterfly, because that's not me. And so, we talk about when we were first married, we'd go to campus outreach meetings and come home and he would go, babe, you talked to 2 people tonight. I'm so proud of you. And so learning, taking the small steps to reaching out and talking to more people and getting more comfortable with that. Because a lot of that is just getting comfortable with it. And so now I can do it without too much anxiety or too much worry. But I think also we've learned through years of like going, okay, if we have a ton of ministry events, he can look at me and go, okay, you're going to stay home tonight because you're drained and you're done. But I do think learning how to use your strengths in ministry, in the sense that, like, because I know that I'm not the gatherer or the social butterfly that talks to everyone in the room, I have been able to form great, deeper friendships with people. And I love leading a small group because I love the depth it allows me to get to with some girls and really get to reach a deeper level than I feel like you can in social situations.
Which I'm glad you're kind of sharing that, because there's probably probably half, if not more, of our class that probably is similar both. That's very introverted or maybe intimidated by large crowds. I know that when a lot of visitors come and they kind of round that corner to get into the classroom and they see all these new people, it can be overwhelming, it can be intimidating. Now our class does a great job of welcoming and being very, very loving towards people and caring towards people, and that goes a long way. But I'm sure a lot of people can connect with you, and it's the reality too that you don't have to be someone that you're not. That you got to be who the Lord's designed you to be, and to work inside of that. But it doesn't mean that we just sit idly aside. What I think I always encourage by you is that you try and you try to figure out, what does it look like for me to do ministry, and the Lord has blessed you tremendously. I know you can't lead small groups like you have in the past because of us keep having kids, but
3 little ones,
yeah,
or 2, almost 3.
But I know you do a wonderful job meeting with women one-on-one and speaking to people's lives, and that's always encouraging.
Yeah, I love one-on-one meetings.
Yeah, so you're probably gonna get a lot after this.
If
maybe.
you want to get coffee, or I'm much better at that. I'm not good at initiating things, but yeah, I love doing coffee and meals because that's a lot more comfortable for me than large group things.
So let me kind of a next question for you. So one of the things, you don't get to read as much as you used to now with toddlers running around, but you used to read a ton. I mean, it was something that we talked about a lot, the books you were reading. You actually struck up a good friendship with our former pastor in Charleston because he was an avid reader. So, that's being one of your big interests is reading. What is your favorite book and why?
Well, you know the answer to this, but Same Kind of Different as Me is probably my hands down favorite book. For a while there, I read it about once a year. Just because I think it's a very beautiful story of friendship and meeting people where they're at, and the power of friendship as far as sharing the gospel, and the power that God can have to redeem people through relationships and through friendships, and very wise, simple statements about God and about how we should treat each other come from that book. So if you're not familiar with it, it's a book about a wealthy, I think the tagline is like, a wealthy white man, a modern day slave, and the woman who brought them together. And
You're trying to see if it was laying out somewhere?
No, I saw someone walking up to the door.
It is normally out somewhere.
It is normally out somewhere. But it's this man who cheated on his wife, was going down this wrong path, and he, in the pursuit of his wife and gaining her trust and rebuilding their marriage, he started to do things she wanted to do. And one of those things was helping out at a homeless shelter. And she, through various events, I don't want to give too much away, she brought him and one of the men at the homeless shelter together. Like, she told her husband, you're going to be his friend. And it was not a very nice man to begin with. He was very rough around the edges. The first impression was him coming into the shelter and yelling about who took his shoes and turning over tables and wanting to beat people up. And so Ron was like, I don't think I'm going to be his friend. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so, but a friendship was formed, and just seeing how really Denver pointed out who God was, and what Denver being the homeless man, and what it means to just almost have a childlike faith in a sense. Like, I just feel like he just said things so simply a lot. And seeing just the power of prayer through a wife who prayed intensely and a woman who prayed intensely. And so it's a wonderful book. It's very short. I recommend it. It's short and easy, and you will cry probably unless you don't have a heart. I recommend it to Stephen for
I knew you were going to get here at some
years and years, and he never read it until, again, our pastor at our former church in their Bible study mentioned how good this book was, and Stephen came home and said, I want to read Same Kind of Different as Me. Buster said it was pretty good. And I was like, well, yeah, I've been saying it was good for years, but go ahead and read it now that Buster says it's good. So, but
one of
it's
the things
that
that it's also the quality of you is how patient you are with you're a very block-headed husband, so I've always admired that about you as well.
So, but he read it and loved it. It was like, well, you could have loved it a lot longer or a lot earlier if you had read it the first time I recommended it.
Well, Kate, thanks so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your life. We'll have to probably do this again if I can convince you to do it again. And but this was such a joy, and I'm sure it blessed everybody in our community. And hopefully more people can get to know what the wonderful woman is that I get to see every single day. And so thankful so much for you. Well, I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.